Welcome back, everyone, to the After the Scales podcast presented by DJD Graphics, episode 41. I'm Jacob Dove of Phenom Motorsports, along with Sean Blight of Canadian Racing Tours. And you've seen him before. It's Hunter Hensel of Hensel Media joining us. On today's episode, we're excited to have Kale Drake out of Collinsville, Oklahoma, driver of the number 97K for Keith Thun's Motorsports, and Bennett Enterprises Honest Abe Roofing number 2B, and the USAC midgets and the USAC non-wing sprint cars. Kale, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to get to talk to you guys this afternoon.
So there's no doubt that you're probably stoked about, you won the prelim night at the BC 39 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the midget. Obviously, not many drivers can say they won a race at Indianapolis. And then this past weekend, you won a big race in the micro sprint for Keith Kunz, won the Keith Kunz Give Back Classic, 15,000 to win. Obviously, that's a great accomplishment. Share with our viewers about that experience.
Yeah, so starting off with the BC 39 preliminary night, went into it with a lot of confidence. Been working with a new crew chief this year, Caleb Wyrick, and we started to mesh really well. We got working together during Illinois Midget Week and just really hit things off strong, and then kind of went through some of the growing pains during a couple of the USAC races during the middle of the season, and then really the last time we went out on track just felt super, super good. I think we ended up going like third quick at Angel Park, and then we went sixth to first in our heat race, and ended up missing a few things in the feature, but just had a lot of confidence going in, and really that's what you needed on a rough, heavy racetrack like that. And for some reason, that seems to suit my kind of style of racing. But started the night off strong, and with it being a little bit different format, everything kind of played in our way, and we were able to just work our way to the front and kind of take over and just hit it out running. And yeah, the feeling of winning my first USAC race and then it being at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was just unreal. Like, I can't even describe how crazy it was. The amount of support that I've had behind me to make all this possible just made it feel extra special, especially for in honor of such an amazing race car driver, Brian Clausen. It was super cool. And then last weekend, or this past weekend, going back to Port City, which is kind of my home track where I grew up racing, and also the race that turned my racing career around last year. Not winning it really bummed me out last year. Kind of headed back to work Monday morning, and then ended up getting a phone call from Keith Kunz about an opportunity to get in his midget ride for the Chili Bowl. We were able to make the most of that and get another opportunity to come out here and work for him and take care of his micro program, and ended up getting back behind the wheel of the midget and getting a win with the Extreme Outlaw Series earlier in the year, and just kind of got the snowball rolling for me. And yeah, going back to Port City and then finally being able to back it up and getting the $15,000 and winning Saturday night was just insane. I felt like if there were any doubters or people that didn't think that I deserved it, kind of, got proved wrong. And I felt like that's one going into the race, I needed to do that and just show them that I am capable. And with the right people, I can accomplish great things.
Yeah, that Give Back Classic deal has become pretty cool the past few years, just with Keith Kunz giving back to the microsprint guys and them having the decision whether they want to run the Chili Bowl and his equipment or take the money. And you can talk about your experience last year finishing second and taking the win this year, but sounds like you took the cash, right? You're confident you're going to have a Keith Kunz ride in the Chili Bowl.
Yeah, so after the race, I did get asked the question, and I ended up taking the money, and Keith came over to me, and he was like, you already have a ride this year. So, yeah, obviously winning that race and then getting the confirmation for sure that I will get to go run the Chili Bowl this year with the Keith Kunz Motorsports team was overall a great feeling. I've felt like it's been a really tough year and a lot of learning, but I feel like we're slowly kind of starting to prove our worth. So, yeah, super excited to get the opportunity to go back. And then after racing the midget for a full year, we should be carrying a lot more confidence in this year. So hopefully we can end up with a little bit better result. I mean, we made the main on our rookie year, so it's going to be tough to one up that, but hoping that we can get on that podium on our preliminary night and lock us into the main.
Yeah, going back, Kale, to the Chili Bowl. Obviously, you turned a lot of heads, making that A main, finishing 14th too is a great result against a great amount of competition at the Chili Bowl. Talk about that experience. I mean, there's drivers from all different backgrounds, sprint cars, late models, even got NASCAR guys coming back and racing the Tulsa Shootout and the Chili Bowl. Just talk about that experience for anyone that hasn't been to the Chili Bowl, what that's like for you.
Yeah, so fortunately, leading up to it, I got to go out west with the team and get my feet wet at Ventura. We got a practice night, and then ended up qualifying super good there, and getting to run the 98 laps at Ventura. So that kind of played into my favor to be a little bit more comfortable going into the race, and then getting to go to the Chili Bowl with the best team in the building just made my job a whole lot easier, and kind of helped me out confidence-wise. I think you have to be in a really particular headspace going into that race to be successful. And I feel like all the people in my corner, Frank Galusha at the time, Scott Ruschenberg, and my mom and dad, my sister, just everyone around me really helped prepare me for the race leading up to it. And there's a lot that can go wrong and a lot that's not into your favor, but you got to try to take what you can control and minimize your mistakes and stay in a good headspace and just do what you do. I feel like I worked super hard all year to get comfortable and learned a lot making good decisions, especially in high pressure situations, which kind of led into that race. You got to stay just so sharp the entire race, even leading up to. So yeah, I mean, I was backed with everything that I possibly needed to be successful in the building. It just came down to me putting it all together and keeping my head on straight. So it wasn't the easiest, but it was a really, really fun time, and I wouldn't change the way it went down for the world.
I got one more about the Chili Bowl there, Kale. You're from Oklahoma, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume that you've been as a fan as a youngster. What's the experience like going there as a fan and then getting to drive in that event?
It's really it's crazy. It's super hard to put into words. I mean, going to the Chili Bowl is just one of the coolest races that you can ever go to and attend. It's a jam-packed building with midgets indoors, and everyone's there for the same reason, the love of the sport. And just seeing so many good people come out of that building and go into the building, and then their careers get turned around because of what goes down in that building is just super crazy. And I always loved the racing that it put on. I've grown up racing the Tulsa Shootout, which is the weeks before the Chili Bowl. So the building means a lot to me as well. The driller, everyone always if you're a race car driver, you want one of those golden drillers, and haven't been able to get one yet, but we've got our chance to race for one, and just getting the opportunity to be there and race for one is super special. But getting to go do it with the biggest team in midget racing and being front row there was just incredible. I mean, I can't really explain how I felt in the moment. I was just so blown away at the fact of how those guys operate and the way that they carry themselves, and just all the amazing people that make their team what it is. And to be a part of it was just super special.
So there's a great article put out by the Extreme Series earlier this year, just about your journey this far, and there was a mention about, actually, it seemed like Keith Coons really realized how dedicated you are and how big of a passion you have for motorsports and your commitment to bettering yourself, and it seemed like you either asked to work for him or he offered to work for you, and that's what you're doing now. And So are you out in Indiana full time, and just what do you do day to day in that deal?
Yeah, so I reached out to Keith. I think it was just early February, just shortly after the Chili Bowl. But after that all went down, I realized that I wanted to pursue being a professional race car driver and that I was ready to do whatever it took to make that possible. And I called him and kind of laid that out for him and put the ball in his court. I told him that I'd be willing to move out here and do whatever it takes to be in the shop with those guys and try to work to be in one of those race cars. And he ended up telling me that he couldn't just throw me in a midget because and put me on the team because it'd be opening the door for many different things. But I ended up coming and working on the micro. He gave me the opportunity to work on his micro program and then get to race his micros at his KKM Challenge events. And he's got 6 micros. I get to work on them every day, get to take care of them, maintain them, and bring them to the track and go work with them on the weekends and get to race that as well. And kind of started off with that, and Gavin Miller ended up getting sidelined midway or at the beginning of the season after a micro race out in California, and they needed to keep the 97 in the Owners Point Championship for Extreme. So I ended up hopping in the seat, and I think our second night out we ended up grabbing the win. And after that, all the sponsors and Keith and Pete knew that they wanted to keep me in the car the rest of the year because their opportunities of getting a few more wins would be great, would increase tremendously. So kind of crazy how it all ended up happening. But yeah, I mean, day to day, I'm in the shop working on the micros and whatever help they need on the midgets. I have a couple of trailers that I manage that go to all the midget races, and so I take care of them and keep them maintained and cleaned and stocked. And whenever I can get any free time, I'm over helping the guys on the midgets. So super fun. I really love every day at the shop, and being with the best in the business makes it a lot more easy.
Yeah, I always have a lot more respect for drivers that are very hands-on and very, contributing to the race team. And obviously that is definitely an advantage for you working on the cars and getting to race them at the same time. I feel like with your, short career as far as moving up quickly through the ranks, you're in the micro sprint and then you move up to the midget. Obviously that's a 4-cylinder, a lot faster. And then even this year running the non-wing sprint car, you've had a lot of horsepower advancement throughout your couple of years here. So kind of talk about, learning from the micro and then taking that into the midget and now with the non-wing sprint car and how those handle.
Yeah, so to touch on what you said about being a race car driver and working on your own equipment, I told Keith coming out here that I didn't want to just end up being a helmet bag driver, that I love working on the race cars just as much as driving them. No hate to people that don't work on their equipment, but it's a lot more fun for me if I get to be hands-on and in the car racing as well. So getting to do both is what I wanted to pursue, and if the opportunity was possible, that's what I wanted to do. So getting to continue to work on my own stuff and race it is just really fun, and I think has helped me progress as much and as quickly as I have in such a short period of time. I don't know if it would really be possible to go from a midget to the micro to the sprint car and be somewhat competitive in a year without knowing as much as I do about the equipment. And I feel like that kind of plays into my favor, knowing how everything works, seeing the cars go together, and knowing what changes do what. Just really helps me figure out what I need to feel and how I need to feel and what I need to do different as a driver. So going from that, there's been many different things that I've learned, and some things I still need to learn, and it's really been super tough mentally as well. I mean, going from being super competitive in the micros and then being in really good equipment in the midget and still struggling from time to time can take a toll on you. But staying confident is really what sets you apart from the rest of the drivers and can help keep you up front even in tough times. And I'm still trying to learn as much as I possibly can each time I go out on the racetrack. Taking away the positives instead of focusing on the negatives has really helped that as well. I mean, the midgets and sprint cars are just no joke. The midgets have such a it's so competitive and the equipment's just so good all the way around. And then you go to the sprint cars where the drivers are just veterans. Like everybody is just so good and experienced. You're always behind the ball. I mean, coming in as a rookie and as a youngin because you just don't have the experience that those guys have, and being able to take away as much as possible each time you touch the track is just super crucial. And I'm just forever grateful for all the opportunities I've been given. Getting in the sprint car was nothing, or never would I have imagined that even happening this year. I obviously wanted to work towards it, but it happening so soon really shocked me, and just super grateful for Scott Binnick and the entire Binnick Enterprises team for that chance.
Kale, I wanted to ask you because Hunter and I were at Eldora for 4 Crown, and that was my first actual opportunity to see the Dirt Midgets live, was at Eldora. And I was talking to a couple of 410 sprint car drivers while you guys were doing hot laps, and they're just shaking their heads like, I would never do this. And they were talking about the balls that you have to get in a midget and go around Eldora is crazy to me. And I'm just curious, we had Chase Randall on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about his previous experience. What's that place like going in a midget? It's like Talladega for NASCAR, I would assume.
Yeah, it's insane. I really don't know how to explain it other than it's just crazy. It's honestly the most physically and mentally grueling track I've ever been on. You have to focus so much on hitting your marks and being so precise just to be fast. The difference between being the fastest car on track and slowest car on the track is half a lane. I mean, you have to be up on the fence. And my first night there, my first night ever at Eldora, my first night at Eldora in a midget was rough. I didn't really know where I knew where I needed to be, but I couldn't get the courage to go up there and do it. And I think at the end of the race, it really bummed me out at my result. I was kind of disappointed in myself, and got to talking with my guys, and then started to work up the courage to get up there and do it. I mean, going to the wall and just being right on the edge of disaster is just a whole nother feeling. But once you figure it out, it's a lot easier than you make it seem. Just getting over the mental block of going up there and doing it is really the big part of it. But yeah, started the second night off a lot better in the midget after getting to run hot laps and qualifying in the sprint car. And we ran, I think we were pretty fast in hot laps, and then ended up going third quick in the sprint car, which was absolutely insane. I think that was the most fun I've ever had on a race car, to be honest with you, was qualifying in hot laps around Eldora. I mean, you are hauling the mail around there, and it's just so fast, and you have to be so precise, and it's super, super fun. But then ended up working and winning the heat race in the midget, which was super cool. Ended up exiting the A main super early due to a big pile up. But yeah, it was a super fun time, and that experience of being at Eldora was just super surreal. And I'd honestly been looking forward to it all year long. I kept telling the guys, I'm like, can Eldora come any sooner? I want to go to Eldora. Let's go to Eldora. And to finally get to go and then run pretty well there was super cool.
Something else I read about you that I thought was super interesting was that you're a fourth generation race car driver. So, I mean, if I'm correct here, I think that would mean that your great grandparents, somebody back then was racing. So, could you just go back in your lineage and talk about? I know your father used to run what everybody ran back in the day.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure when they started. I know that my great grandfather raced, obviously, and they ran at the Tulsa Fairgrounds, which is no longer around, but they ran pretty much everywhere. And then my grandpa raced, and he ran modifieds and all sorts. And I think it was just the Tulsa, Oklahoma City area. I don't know that they did much traveling, but they raced and they loved it, and their entire family did it. And then, my dad started when he was 16 years old, I believe, in a micro, and he ran micros for quite a while and ended up getting in MMA championship, which is the series is no longer around, but was the biggest micro traveling series in the country. And he won tons of races and was, considered the best in a micro at some point, and ended up moving. He as crazy as it sounds, he got bored of it because he was winning all the time, is what my mom said. It was the craziest thing, but he ended up getting I think a 305 or a 2-barrel sprint car or whatever, and raced that around Oklahoma. And then I think he kind of dwindled as that went on. I think I came around, and then I ended up starting off in the quarter midgets and going into my junior sprints, and then into the micro, and then now to where I am. So it's pretty crazy, but to be fourth generation, it's just super cool. I've always said, like, it's in my blood. I literally and my whole family's done it for as long as I can remember. And we grew up at the racetrack week in, week out. So it's always been a part of me, but I always dreamt of being a professional race car driver, but never really imagined it being possible, just because of the way times are today and how much funding it takes to make possible. But I've had some pretty amazing people in my corner and told me that if you're willing to work for it, anything's possible. So been kind of grinding and trying to keep working at that dream that I had as a little boy.
And before I get into our rapid fire segment, I wanted to mention about some of Kale's accomplishments. Obviously, you had that exciting win against your teammate, Taylor Reimer. You pulled off a last lap, last corner pass to get the win there. And then also, you were the 2024 Kokomo SmackDown Rookie of the Year. Obviously, two great races and accomplishments. But as far as, moving forward, this year, you're 10th in the USAC midget points, 16th in Extreme Outlaws, and 22nd in the USAC non-wing sprint cars. Do you feel like you want to kind of stick with the non-wing stuff moving forward, keep getting that experience against those top veteran guys, maybe given the right opportunity down the road, shooting for maybe going into the wing sprint cars, because we've seen a lot of guys in the USAC world end up going to the wing world, like Brady Bacon is going to be doing the same thing next year. Is that kind of in the plans for you, or do you have some different goals of yours that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I want to become one of the best dirt track racers in the world, and I want to work to being on the true World of Outlaw tour, or eventually racing with the high limit full time. It'd take a lot of people to make that happen, but I feel like I gotta work to be the better race car driver at the moment. So with that being said, I plan on staying in the midgets and continuing to race at big micro races, and hopefully getting the opportunity to continue racing the non-wing sprint car stuff next year. So there's a lot to learn for me, but I want to work my way up to being in a wing sprint car full time and racing with the best in the world week in, week out. For now, we've got some work to do in the midgets and sprint cars, but yeah, we're going out west here in a couple of weeks with USAC, and we're going to wrap things up with the USAC midget season. We've got 7 more races out there, so that'll be all really good seat time and a lot of big money on the line out there as well. So that'll be super cool. We've just accomplished so much in such a short period of time, wrapping up the Outlaw non-wing championship with Power Eye last year, and then rolling in and getting that Chili Bowl Rookie of the Year, and then SmackDown Rookie of the Year, and the BC 39 Rookie of the Year. Hoping to close out the Rookie of the Year with the USAC. I feel like as a driver, I've kind of let myself down on how consistent I've been. So being in contention for the championships kind of out of reality, but we can still keep working super hard to work our way back up through the ranks and try to finish the season off strong with a good result.
So, Kale, we end every podcast. We call it the DJD Gear Rapid Fire segment. We just ask you 10 quick questions. You just come up with the first answer. Some are racing, some are non-racing related. So, if you're ready, I'll fire off the questions to you. All right. So, the first one we got is, what's your favorite racetrack?
Sweet Springs in Missouri.
And then between the midget or the non-wing sprint car, which do you like more?
So far the midget, but I think the non-wing sprint car has potential.
And which would you rather win, a USAC championship or the Chili Bowl Nationals?
Oof, that's tough. Probably the Chili Bowl Nationals.
And what's the best spot to eat or hang out in Collinsville, Oklahoma?
Oh, not much. It's super small. My go-to would probably be Sonic there.
And outside of racing, what's your favorite thing to do?
Probably hang out on the water, like doing some sort of rather like board, like knee boarding, wakeboarding, tubing, or just ride jet skis. I like being on the water.
And in Oklahoma, there's a big rivalry in college sports. The Oklahoma Sooners or the Oklahoma State Cowboys? Which team are you rooting on?
Boomer Sooner.
And sometimes drivers have a kind of a pre-race ritual. Do you have any of yours?
Stay as hands-on with the car so that I'm out of my head. As long as I'm working on the car or keeping it clean and continuing to be hands-on, I tend to do pretty well.
And what's one song that you have on repeat at the moment?
Too Sweet by Hoosier.
And what's one positive and one negative about traveling on the road from racetrack to racetrack?
Positive is that you get a lot of experience that you really wouldn't get just staying and racing locally, learning different racetracks and racing against different drivers. A negative is that it's super hard on your body and mentally, it's super mentally demanding and mentally draining. So it can be really tough at times to keep going.
And the last rapid fire question for you. Obviously, Kale is a unique first name. Who gave it to you, or is there any backstory to it?
Yeah, so the backstory behind it is my mom and dad were going to go with Taylor because before they found out I was going to be a boy. That ended up being my sister's name. Once they found out I was going to be a boy, they kind of were talking to my grandmother, who's not with us anymore, and her favorite NASCAR driver was Kale Yarbrough. My mom did not like the way that it looked with the C, so she put a K in front of it instead. So I'm named after the NASCAR driver Kale Yarbrough, but with a K.
Well, there's
cool.
Yeah, I had that NASCAR poster on my wall, and Kale Yarbrough had those 3 championships back to back to back. And as a kid, I was like, "Wow, how did he do that?" So
yeah, he was a badass. There's first drivers to be named after for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, we really appreciate Kale for taking time to talk with us. Obviously, congrats again on those 2 big accomplishments at the BC 39 and then here at Port City Raceway and the Keith Kunz Motorsports Give Back Classic. We really hope that you carry that momentum into the rest of your racing season and for next year as well. We're going to be rooting you on. I'm sure Sean and Hunter and myself will be cheering you on Flow Racing and all that. So, yeah, Kale, thanks for being on the podcast again.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. Hope to see you guys soon.
So thanks again to Kale being on today's podcast. We wanted to conclude today's episode sharing some experiences with you and what we got coming up. I know Hunter was at Lincoln Speedway and Linda Speedway, so talk about that sprint car race and micro race that you were at this past weekend.
Yeah, so Saturday was the final 50 at Lincoln Speedway. As one of my buddies calls it, the better Tuscarora 50. I don't think there would be anybody else who would agree with him on that. But 50 lapper with a fuel stop halfway through. It was a really cool event to end out the season. Matt Campbell set the pace the first 23, 24 laps until there was a yellow, and Brent Marks and Anthony Macri were pretty much just letting him pace the field for that fuel stop, I think. And that yellow let Marks jump Campbell at that restart. So Marks had the lead at that fuel stop and never really looked back. He never came off the top, really all 50 laps. Macri tried to run the bottom a little bit to get by him, but the preferred line was the top the whole race, and Marks ended up taking it. I didn't stay for the 358s at Lincoln. I got in my car and started heading straight to Linda Speedway with the intentions of catching the 600cc wingless micro sprint national open, which I did make it on time. Christian Bruno won his second national open. That's 2 years in a row. So it was really cool to get out to a micro race this year. I love my wingless 600 hyper micro sprints, and in Western PA I don't get that as much as the hyper territory in Central PA. So in Central PA they got races at BAPS the next 2 weekends, and then there's the big show with I believe it's USAC wingless 360s and then winged 410s. I think there might be 360s or something too, and that's a big show to end out the season locally at Bridgeport. So Not sure what I'll get out to, but maybe BAPS, maybe Bridgeport. We'll see. So that's how the season's going to close out in Central PA.
I've got one of those maybe penciled in. It's 6.5 hours at least for me, but some of these PA races at the end of the year when you've got the high limit guys are done and the outlaws are kind of off until Charlotte now, there's guys looking for races to go to. So some of these PA races late in the year are really, really good. So I've never been to BAPS or Bridgeport, but I'm thinking maybe I should try to get to one of those, I think.
Yeah, Jacob Allen was at Lincoln on Saturday too, so it was cool to see the highlight guys there.
Yeah, and unfortunately for us dirt racing gearheads, the season is slowing down, but this past weekend at Eldora, it was the Dirt Track World Championship where Ricky Thornton Jr. wanted to give him a shout out. Got his spoiler wing panel here. Got it signed by him earlier this year, but wanted to give a shout out to RGJ for pulling off the victory and the championship. Bobby Pierce ended up winning the feature, but overall great year for Lucas Dirt, and they're expanding their 4-year contract with them and their presenting sponsor. So that's pretty exciting. And we got some racing for myself here coming up next weekend. I'll be at a super late model asphalt race. So looking forward to that. And then instead of going to NASCAR after what I seen this past weekend, quite a joke in my opinion, but I won't go into it too much. But I've decided that I want to focus on going to the World Finals. First time going to Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Sean's got his hat on. So definitely looking forward to that. I know Sean and Darren and the whole crew is going to be coming out for that. So we just wanted to thank everyone for being on today's podcast. And we look forward for episode 42, where we have some exciting guests with the Leedy family.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We've got 3 generations of the Leedys. Youngest, Alyssa, her younger brother, Austin, I'm thinking is going to make a brief appearance as well. Their dad, Mike Leedy, and grandfather, Jan Leedy. Jan is voted one of the 50 greatest asphalt modified drivers of all time. 9 NASCAR modified wins, 16 ROC modified wins, and then just a ton of wins at tracks like Lancaster, Spencer Speedway, Oswego Speedway, in unsanctioned events. So Jan was a hero of mine growing up. One of my kind of 2 or 3 local racing heroes. I had Junior Hanley in Canada, which some of the older fans would know that name. And Jan Leedy was my modified driver. So when we started this podcast, this was kind of something I was chatting with Alyssa about doing kind of back in the spring there at Lancaster, and she was really excited. And I know Jan and Mike are really excited too. So that's going to be awesome. It might have to break it up into 2 parts. We'll see how things go, but it's going to be really cool.
Yeah, definitely very exciting, and we appreciate everyone's support for these past 41 episodes. And make sure to check out our social medias. You know, Sean's always got his pictures up, and also at Hensel Media, Hunter takes great pictures too. So check that out, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
After the Scales is proudly presented by DJD Graphics. From commercial and personal vehicles to racing bikes and cars of all makes, models, and disciplines, DJD Graphics can fully customize your vehicle to suit your needs. For more information, contact Darren and visit his website at www.djdgraphics.com. Tell him Sean and Jacob sent you to receive special rates.